Welcome to Study Time, a televised home learning program produced by Rwanda Education Board.
Hello, dear students. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Callixte. I am a math teacher. Today, we are going to learn a new lesson under Unity 5, which is quadratic equations. And you remember, when you learn all the equations under these quadratic equations, you need to know how to solve any quadratic equation. And we have started to learn different methods you can use when you are solving a quadratic equation. And as I told you, I want you to know the learning objective of our lesson of today. Let's look at the learning objective of our lesson today. As I have told you, my name is Callixte. I teach mathematics. And we are with the senior 3 students. And this is lesson number 2, solving quadratic equations by graph method. Let's look at the learning objectives. I want you to be able, of course, by the end of this lesson, I want you to be able to build a table of signs for a quadratic equation. And I also want you to be able to solve a quadratic equation by graphical method. Remember, last time we learned the first method you can use when you're solving a quadratic equation. That was factorization method. But today we are going to learn how to solve a quadratic equation by using the graphical method. And also, I want you to be able, of course, by the end of this lesson, to tell where this lesson is applied in everyday life situation. And you can ask yourself why I always want you to know this. It's because many students just wonder why do they have to learn some concepts in mathematics. And you may hear from different person saying, no, I don't need this because no any way I can apply this in everyday life. But I want you to be able, at the end of this lesson, to be able to tell people where this lesson can be applied in everyday life. Now, I also want you to remember how to write a general equation of a quadratic functional equation. That's also very important. That's why I want you to be able to know it. Whenever you have y equals to ax squared plus bx plus c, you remember this is a general form of a quadratic function. And I have told you, if you have some values for a, for example, if you have y equals to 2x squared, maybe plus 3x, maybe plus 4, whenever you have some values standing for A, B, and C, you now have what we call quadratic equation. So without wasting time, I want to take you through the one example of how to solve a quadratic equation. And I just want you to have an exercise notebook, a pencil, a ruler, and a pen. And then we learn all this together, because I have told you the objectives of our lesson of today. Let's go straightly to one of the examples we can use. If we are solving a quadratic equation by graphical method, of course, you need to draw your equation. Let's have one example. Example, let's call it number 1. If you have y equals x squared plus 3x minus 4. So we are going to solve this. We are going to solve this equation. I take you on the PowerPoint presentation. And our example, we need to plot, as I have written it there, we have y equals x squared plus 3x minus 4 for the values. Every time when you are solving a quadratic equation, you need to have the values to be used. And for our case, we have from -5. We are going to solve it. values for x. X will be varying between -5 and what? And +2. Those are the values you will be using when you're solving it. It is very important. You can't solve by graphical methods if you don't have the values for x. You should, even though you may not be given to it, you need to give them to yourself in case they have not given to you. Now, what we are going to do, we will first of all plot. We will plot, as you can see here, you will plot y equals x squared plus 3x minus 4 for values from -5 to +2. And also, number B, we will use the graph to find. The graph we've already sketched. We will use it to find the value of y in case x is 1.5. And also, Roman 2, we will find the value of x when y equals 4. And Roman 3, we will find the value of y when x equals -2.5. And number C, we will use the graph to solve the quadratic equation. Of course, that graph, we will actually use it to solve, to see the values of them. Now, the first thing you do when you're solving a quadratic equation, the first thing, if we look at the solution, so we need to solve that, we are going to work on number A. It was to plot. We plot the graph. We plot the graph of that equation. How do we plot it? We need to have the values of x and the values of y. That's why the first thing that you have to do is to know how to determine the table of signs. And if you work on the table of signs, if you try to work on the table of signs, you need to build it in this way. There is the value of x. I put it here. And they have given us the value of x. They told us it is from -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, and the last 3, we have 2. So we are going to build this table of signs. You remember they told us that x should vary between this and +2. That's why I have 2 here and -5 here. I think everyone is seeing this. When you finish that, you go back into your equation. As you have it, your equation here. You need to go back and see what you have. And there is no problem. You can start from this side, like this, or like this. But I prefer to start with this, the -4 as a constant. We have -4 there. When we have -4, I build my table on this point. And also you go to next term, that is plus 3x. Plus 3x. And they also make it lower. And we have the other one. It is plus x squared. You also make it low. I think we are going together, or you are seeing how to do so. And then when you finish, you go to y, because you need to find the value of y at the end of that day. You need to put y here. And then we are done with our table. Just to build some squares of it. And from there, we are going now to find the values of y when you finish to put the values there. We have -5 here. And of course, we don't have any value of x. That's why we copy this -4 for all the squares that we have here. We have -4 here, -4 here, -4, -4, -4, -4. You just copy it because there is no value of x. There is no this variable x. It's a constant. It remains the same. Now we are here. We have 3 times x. And what is the value of x? The value of x is -5. When you multiply here, you get -15 because -5 times 3 gives -15. What do we have here? It is -12. Here it's -9. Here -6. Here -3. And here 0 times 3 gives 0. 1 times 3, it is 3. 2 times 3, it's 6. I think you are seeing what I'm doing. It's to take this value and you put in the place of x. -4 here, here, and you get the answer. We are now on x squared. We are going to take the value of x and we power it 2. We have -5. There is something that I want you to know before we fill this table. When you have x squared, you see, and in case x is equal to -5, you should remember that the negative sign also has to go with the power you have. Otherwise, you may not be right. So then here, when you have -5 squared, what do we get? It is -5 times -5, and you get 25, because the negative and negative gives positive. That is 25 here. -4 squared, it is 16. -3 squared, it's 9. -2 squared, it is 4. -1 squared, it is 1. Here we have 0. Here we have 1. And 2 squared gives 4. Do you see what we get? Now we are going to find the value of y. How do we find the value of y? It's to sum up the values you found. Look at this. When you look for the value of y, you need to sum up all these values you found here. I want you to be okay with this. You sum up all these values, because when you do go back into the equation here, all the values that I have here, if I do sum them up, I will get the value of y. Do you get this? That's why we are now going to sum up. -4, -15. That is -19. And we have 25. You have now 25, and you have -19. What do you get? It is 6. Now you have 6 here. Let me use which color? Let me use yellow color. We have 6 here for y. If x is equal -5, y will be 6, because I have summed up the values that I have here in case you've replaced x by its value, which is -5. And then we go to the next. I will sum up this. -4, -12, that is -16. We are here. Are we together, students? We are here. -4, -12, that is -16, and then 16. You have -16, and plus 16 gives 0. And then here you have 0. Are we together? Thank you. We are here on -3. We sum up this. Remember, we are just summing up this. All this. We are summing up this. You see? We have -4 and -9. That is -13. -13 and 9, what do we get? It is -4. We put -4 here. Are we together, students? Thank you. Now we are here. -4 and -6, that is -10. -10 plus 4 It's negative 6. Are we together? We are here. Negative 1. Negative 4, negative 3, that is negative 7, plus 1, that is negative 6. Are we together? We are now here. 0. Negative 4 and 0, we remain with negative 4. And here we have, on 1, we have negative 4 and 1, that is negative 1, and 1, that is 0. And here we have negative 4 and negative 6, that is 2. 2 plus 4 gives 6. So we are done to fill our table. And I think you've enjoyed yourselves to see how to fill it. It is very nice when you finish to fill it. And as you can see, you have now what you call the coordinates. Look at this. When you form the coordinates, we have negative 5. It goes with the 6. That is coordinate, the point number 1, because you remember, I told you when you are drawing, when you are plotting your graph, when you are plotting any equation on a graph, you need to have the coordinates. You need to have the points to show it on a graph. You have now negative 5 and 6. That's how you write the coordinates of the point. Negative 5 and 6. Here we have negative 4 and 0. Here you have negative 3 and a negative 4. Here you have negative 2 and a negative 6. And here you have negative 1 and negative 6. Here you have 0 and a negative 4. Here you have 1 and a 0. And lastly, you have 2 and 6. And you don't have to get confused. No need of putting this on a table. You can now have them out. It's just up to you to keep the track on every single coordinate you get. You don't need to put them. You don't need to put them in a table. You just have to know how they're formed. Okay? So after getting the coordinates, we are going now to put our graph to go on the x and y axis, and we plot by using the points that we have found. As you can see here, I have tried to draw the Cartesian plane. From this Cartesian plane, that's where you can put the points you have over there. I have tried to put some, graduations. And let's put one here, and this is a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9. Here we have negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7. We don't need to go far from there because we have the last value for x should be negative 5. And you do the same for y-axis. We have now here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, and so on. Now, when you finish to get this, we are going to put our coordinates, the coordinates of the point that we have here. How many points do we have? Remember something. When you're drawing a quadratic functional equation, it's quite different to when you are drawing a linear equation or linear function. Because for linear function, you need 2 points. 2 points are enough for you to draw a line. If I want to draw a line, I will be in need of only 2 points. But this is a different case for quadratic equation. You need many different points because at the end of the day, you need to have a curve. And let's put our points there. We have point number 1, it is negative 5 and 6. Where is negative 5? It's here on x and 6 on y. We try to put it there. I'm trying to locate my point is here. This is the first point we have. Have you seen it? The first point is there. Can you name it? It's called negative 5 and 6. That's point number 1. We go to point number 2. It is negative 4 and 0. Negative 4 on x and 0 on y. We have negative 4 here and 0. We have this negative 4 and 0. 0 on y and also negative 4 here. That's our point is here. This point is negative 4 and 0. I want you to keep a track on the points that we get. Have you seen it? Number next, it is -4 and -3. -3 and -4. We have -3 here and a -4. We do go down a little bit here, like that, like this. This is the other point we have. This point is -3 and a -4. Have you seen it? And also we have the other point is -2 and -6. -2 and -6. -2 and -6 is here. -2 and -6 is there. The other point is -1 and -6. -1 and a -6 is here. -1 and -6. The other point is 0 and 4. 0 and a -4. It's here. 0 on x and -4 on y. The other point is 1 and a 0. 1 on x and a 0 on y. It's here. This is 1 and 0. The last point, it is 2 and 6. 2 is here and 6. Like this. This is point 2 and 6. Let's draw. You have to use your hand when you are drawing, when you are just plotting it, because there is no any other way you can use a ruler. No. You use your hand. And join the points. We go together, we join, we join, we join. We are doing this, we join like this. I'm here now. We continue. Oh my God, so it should be in that way. Like this, like this, like this. Perfect. I'm done. Should be like this. You see? Now, this is our graph. This is the graph, plotting the graph of y. This is y. Y equals x squared plus 3x minus 4. Now, let's go to number B. Number B here. Number B is to find the values Roman 1. Roman 1, it was to find the value of y in case x is equal to 1.5. How do you do this? What you do, you need to go back into your equation. You have now y equals to x squared plus 3x minus 4. You just replace. You replace this over there. You have 1.5 squared plus 3 times 1.5 minus 4. When you work on this by using a calculator, okay, students, when you work on this one using calculator, you will get the value of 2.7. So in case x is equal to this one, in case x is equal to 1.5, y will be equal to 2.7. And Roman 2, we are done with Roman 1, Roman 2. It was to find the value of x if y equals 4. What you do, you just read from your graph. You read. You read from your graph. What is y equals 4? Y equals 4 is here. This is y equals 4. You just read from the graph, equals 4 here. And then you go a little bit down. You just locate. When you have a graduated paper, you find the exact value. And I'm sure you have some. This is where we have one here, and we are beyond 1.5. We will get, what have I calculated? You just read. You will get around 1 point something. You see, we are not having 1.5. It's around 0.7, something like that. When you have a graduated paper, you get the exact value. That's why I always encourage you to have the graph papers, because it shows you the exact value. Now we are on Roman 3. Roman 3, it was to find the value of y if x equals negative 2.5. This is where I want you to be very careful. In case you have a value that has a negative sign like this one, you need to go back into your equation, x squared plus 3x minus 4. And here it's the whole number. It is negative 2.5, then squared plus 3 times negative 2.5 minus 4. And when you do, use a calculator and you will get the value of y equals negative 5.2. In case x equals negative 2.5, y will be negative 5.2. Students, I think you've seen how actually to draw and to solve your quadratic equation by using graphical methods. You've seen how we've found the value of x, the value of y, just like that. Now, the last point that we're supposed to do, it was point number C. Point number C, it was to use the graph to solve the quadratic equation. Using that graph, you just have to use the graph. To use the graph to solve it, to solve that equation. To use the graph to solve that equation. Let's make this as a task that we can work on it next time, because of time. We can work on that next time and see and conclude how to solve it using the graph. Before I finish my lesson, I want to leave you with a homework. I have a homework for you, and from homework, you will get some questions, and then you work on them by following the same steps we've used here. Our homework is here. This is the homework. As you can see, we have math homework for senior 3s. The first question, you will plot the graph. I have given you a different equation. That is y equals x squared minus 4x plus 4 for values of x from negative 5 to positive 5. You solve from your graph the equation. There are some equations that I have given you, as you can see them here. We have all these equations, 3 equations, and you will solve them by using that graph. And then you plot the graph of the function x squared minus 6x plus 5 for negative 1, x varying between negative 1 and positive 7, and use your graph to solve the equation. At least now here we've learned how to fit the table, and from table how to plot, and then the next lesson I will show you how to solve it by using the graph. Okay? Now I thank you very much for your hard attention, and I wish you all the best. See you then by seeing really how to solve it by using a graph, because that's the target of our lesson. At least you've seen some of the steps you can be following when you're reaching to the end of it. Thank you very much. I'll see you then.